Welcome again. Third time up here for me, and hello to all of you and everybody online. We're locking in for some time, finishing off our series called Serve. So, we are in part 4 of our four-part series called Serve. And to get you up to speed with where we have been in case you have missed out, I just want to go through each week. And then today we're going to be looking at some incredible words that come from a long time ago but help us in this world that we live in of more. So, where have we been so far? Week 1, we started off by defining serve. What does serve even mean? And this is the way we've been defining it over our journey together. We've been saying this: serving is any time that we use our time, our talents, and our treasures to put the person before me. It's any time when we lift up someone else instead of ourselves. It's any time when we put ourselves second so that we can put them first. We investigated Mark's account of Jesus' life, and we found out that serving isn't just something we get to do. It's actually part of who we become as followers of Jesus. It's part of our DNA. We become people who serve. The longer we follow Jesus, the more we are able to serve and love those around us. Then in week 2, we had a look at going back to the beginning of the Bible, to a document called Genesis, and we looked at the fact that humanity right back at the beginning was given 2 jobs: multiply and rule over the earth in step with God. And then at the end of our time, I challenged us to think through practically in our workplace, with our families, our friendships, and our community. Where is it? Because we have been made to serve. Where is it that we can actually go and serve and love the people around us? And last week, we got to journey with 2 ladies, Naomi and Ruth. And we discovered that in times of grief, serving can actually be something that is healing. That part of our story can be to journey with others who have been through similar circumstances and similar situations to us. That part of our processing and part of our healing through those circumstances can actually be an invitation to walk alongside someone who is going through what we have been through. And today we're going to conclude our time together by seeing that how our decision to serve other people not only changes our world here and now, but actually sets up the next generation so that they are able to love and say yes to something so much better. So we're going to look today at saying no to the land of and saying yes to something much better. When I was growing up, and I was a little fella, I had some hopes and dreams, but I'll be honest with you, they were limited. Very, very limited. And in fact, for a second, why don't you, in your own minds, go in your way back machine and think back about when you were growing up as well. Think about the fact that when you were growing up in your childhood, you only knew what you knew, right? Like, you knew what you knew. What you were experiencing was limited to what you experienced, and for the people around you, your imagination was basically what you had, what your friends had, what your schoolmates had, or what your cousin got. Right? That's as far as your imagination went. So for me, I remember being about year 2 to 4-ish. And one of our friends at church had something really cool. They had a projector. Right? And I'm not talking like that. See a little one up there. And the screen was nowhere as big as that. But it was a projector. It was something like this. Do you guys remember this one here? No? Wait, that one? Did anyone? Yeah. Took a while to warm up, had to turn it on and wait. So my mate, he had one of these, and it was incredible. And on top of having a projector, it got better. He also had access to Foxtel, the magic box that gave us access to TV shows from the distant land of America. And it was so cool. If you're too young to know, Foxtel is just like worse streaming. And everyone, when streaming came along, went, yes, no more Foxtel. And now, how many streaming services do you have? And we're back to Foxtel. Anyway, my imagination was just mind blown when this happened. They had a projector. It was up on the screen. Not only that, this projector lived in a special room that was only for watching the projector. I didn't know such rooms could exist. I was like, oh my goodness, they have a spare room. What is that? And that spare room is just for watching this projector. It absolutely blew my mind. And the fact they had access beyond what I had at the time, because I grew up on ABC Kids, Angela Anaconda, Daria, Little Monsters, Round the Twist. Anyone Round the Twist? I love that show. At that time in my life, I went to myself, man, if I've got a good TV, access to good shows, my life seemed complete. I mean, that is all there was to life. And going around to my mate's place and getting to sit in that room and watch Adult Swim on Cartoon Network was the definition to my brain. That was heaven. Didn't get any better than that. And you know what? My clothes got washed for me. The food appeared. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was incredible. And then I grew up. Life started to change. Things started to get a bit bigger. Gaming, movies, sports and sports equipment, riding bikes, youth group, going out bush, motorbikes, staying out late, sneaking out of the house. You know, life gets bigger, doing all sorts of things. And as life got bigger, it just got more complicated, right? Right? It just got more and more complicated. And I started to realize something. That young Josh, who was so content with a Saturday morning of cartoons on his mate's projector, had given way to teenage Josh, who was still happy with a lot of life, don't get me wrong, but was realizing that some things aren't all that great. And I began to go through a transition, which we all go through, where I left the land of the innocent and I started to go through the land of Ur. Now, you can probably pinpoint the exact moment in your life when you left the land of the innocent and were sucked into the land of Ur. Now, let me define it for you. The land of Ur is an amazing place. It's a place where gratitude slowly gives way to comparison, where contentment is replaced by craving, and when what we have just no longer feels like enough. You've been through this, you think to yourself, oh, the house could be bigger, the phone could be newer, the bank account could be richer, the body could be stronger, the holidays could be longer, the friendships could be closer, the influence could be greater. This life I live could be better. And the land of Ur is where enough goes to die. And it's the place where blessings become burdens because we're always looking for something bigger, better, greater than what we currently have. Now, what does that have to do with serving? And where are we going? That's a good question. So, we're going to get reacquainted with one of the wisest people in the Bible, and we're going to learn how serving can help us combat the land of Ur. So, a long time ago, a man named David, he was the second king of Israel, he made an awful decision. Really, really bad decision. He decided to take a man's wife and kill the man. Not good. You can read about it. Just Google David and Bathsheba. Basically, my man David, he had 7 wives. Come on, man. He went and slept with a woman who was married to a guy named Uriah, got her pregnant, and then killed Uriah to cover it up. It was a power trip, awful decision, crazy Bible story, absolutely nuts. Now, the baby that they had together was a little one called Solomon. Solomon grew up, asked God for wisdom, and became the 3rd king of Israel. And then Solomon became known for his wisdom, for the wealth and the prosperity, and there's something else. What was the other thing? Yeah, he had 700 wives. What the heck? Of royal birth. And then 300 concubines. I think he looked and said, Dad, I got you. I can one-up this. And he just 10x that thing to kingdom come. Now, wisest king is one title, and he definitely earned that. But there are some other titles as well that he definitely earned as well. So Solomon, the son of the man who had 8 wives, who himself had 1,000 women in his life, lived it up. People came from everywhere to seek his wisdom. He was rich. He was powerful. Everything he said, it reverberated throughout the kingdom of Israel. If there was a physical representation of the land of Ur, it was Solomon. It was Solomon. There was no one wiser, no one richer, no one stronger, greater, powerfuler, successfuler, or happier, or so it seemed. But then, at around 900 BCE, the 3rd king of Israel, with 1,000 women who lived in the land of Ur, recorded some thoughts and gave us a document that we call the Book of Ecclesiastes. And if I was going to have a guess at what Ecclesiastes is about, I would think he would be writing it about how to get rich, stay rich, and keep 1,000 women happy. That's what I think he would be doing. That's where I think he would lean. But when you actually look at Ecclesiastes and read through it, it is very, very different. Here are just some of the amazing phrases that come from the man who had it all. Meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Okay, that's a bit of a downer. He said, I've seen all things that are done under the sun. And I believe him because he had access to everything. I've seen all the things done under the sun, and all of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. You and I think to ourselves, yeah, life can be a little repetitive and a little meaningless, but we don't get to see everything. We're not part of the 1%. You know, we're not Elon Musk with his $1 trillion or less than or whatever happened there. Like, we're just people. Solomon saw it all. He had access to it all. If he said it, people did it. And he said, I've seen it all. And it is meaningless. He goes on, he says things like, for with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge you have, the more grief. And yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, says Solomon, everything was meaningless. It was just a chasing after the wind. Now, personally, this seems like less words of timeless wisdom and more cry for help, right? Someone should go check on Solomon because he seems like he is absolutely going through it. You have this man, third king of a nation, incredible prosperity, he has the top position, and yet as he reflects on the life and the world that he sees around him, this is where he lands. This guy was in the land of Ur. He had made it, but this is what he discovered. Your friend, think about this. Your friend with the car you want, the job you want, the kitchen you want, the kids you want, the body you want. Like, Solomon was that. He had everything. And when he reflects on life, he says, it's meaningless, pointless. To which you think to yourself, well, what's the point? I'm aiming for what you've got. Don't tell me it's meaningless. I'm trying to get there. But then he gives us this one verse, this one incredible verse. And it's Ecclesiastes 4 verse 6. And it gives us this insight that helps us understand where he's coming from. He pens this. He says, better one hand with tranquility than two hands with toil and chasing after the wind. Better one hand in peace than two hands and heartache and break and difficulty. In one verse, Solomon comes to us and gives us the sobering truth. And this is the sobering truth he wants you to hear and me to hear. From the guy at the top with the wealth, the wisdom, and the women. From that guy up there, he wants to say to everybody through all of history, it will never be enough. There is not enough money. There is not enough resources. There is not enough of whatever it is you've got in your mind that you're aiming for, where you think to yourself, if I can just get enough of that. He says, I've been there, done that, got to the end of the rainbow. It's never enough. It's never, ever enough. You can take it from Solomon, or you can choose your own adventure. You can go and try and marry 700 royal-born women. And just so you know, this doesn't get talked about much, but just a fun fact. Solomon built the Temple of Israel, very true. He also built a lot of temples for a lot of his royal wives, to a lot of other gods. So, just interesting. He was into temple building. So you can go and do that. You can become the most sought-after mind in the world. You can go have the best house and have all the wealth. But that's one journey. Or you can take it from Solomon, who got to the peak. He got there. And you know what he saw when he got to the top of the mountain? Another mountain. And he realized, it doesn't end. You can get to the top. It's never the top. It's never enough. The land of Ur will always, always, always leave you wanting more. There is not contentment there. Now, fast forward about 950 years. And Solomon's great, you get it, great grandson named Jesus comes along. Now, unlike Solomon, Jesus wasn't born into a royal family with a famous warrior dad who rescued the people of Israel from the threat of a giant. Unlike Solomon, Jesus didn't grow up to live in a palace. He wasn't surrounded by 700 wives and 300 concubines, and he didn't have world leaders seeking his wisdom and insight, giving him wealth in return. Instead, Jesus was born to a carpenter named Joseph and a mother named Mary, and he grew up in an obscure rural town called Nazareth. A backwater place, not really significant. But Jesus was very much like Solomon in that he was wise. He was wise enough to know that wealth, women, and fame, they were never the pathway to happiness. Solomon said to us, better one handful of tranquility than two handfuls of toil and chasing after the wind. Jesus takes it a step further. He says this in the book of Mark, what good is it to gain the entire world and lose your soul? Solomon discovered that more isn't enough. And Jesus revealed why that's the case. And he showed us our hearts were never designed to be filled with more of this world. Our hearts were designed to be filled with a relationship with our Heavenly Father. A relationship that is obedient to a life that reflects our Father's heart. A heart that was on display through Jesus and Jesus' life. When Jesus showed up, he showed us what wisdom looks like. Wisdom looks like putting people before possessions. Said it before, we'll say it again. No one goes to a funeral to brag about how many cool cars they had, right? Jimmy passed away, but oh my goodness, did you see his car collection, his property portfolio? Did you see what are those little pop dolls? Like, what are those little things people buy? Come on, young people, help me out here. Like, you see them at the place. Pop vinyls. Yeah, like some people have some very good collections of those. And people have all sorts of things, right? Pop vinyls for our younger generation. Older generation, really sick teaspoon collection. You know, those people that have them in the... Just got to try and get everyone on board here. No one rocks up at a funeral and says, wow, look, Ad. They don't do that. No. They talk about the relationships they've had, the people they've loved. He gave us wisdom to say that serving rather than being served is the goal. Forgiving those who hurt us, welcoming those who are ignored by society, showing compassion to those who are hurting, lifting up the poor and the marginalized, loving our enemies, and going further than just loving your enemies. Are you someone who actively wants the best for those that want the worst for us? Sacrificing for the good of others and giving our lives away, not for ourselves, not to get more, but for a bigger picture and a bigger story for our incredibly big God. Basically, are we going to become people who use our time, talents, and treasures to put the person before me? Not to own more, but to give it away. Not to get ahead, but to lift other people up. Not to accumulate more, but to leave more so the next generation may flourish. Not to live for ourselves, but to give away ourselves in this lifetime. Solomon went to the top of the hill. He went to the top of how much one man can own and how much influence one man can have. And he realized the cost is not worth it. There's not peace, tranquility, and I've made it. There's only more. Jesus also went to the top of a hill. But he went to the top of a hill, was nailed to a cross, and demonstrated the richness of a life that is given away for another person. So today we have a choice. We can join Solomon and we can journey through the land of Ur, but I guarantee you 1000% you will end your story with Solomon's words, meaningless, everything's meaningless. In fact, some of you are sitting here right now thinking to yourself, if I'd heard this message 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe you wouldn't be where you are right now. Maybe you would be in a different space. We can go and chase after the bigger house, the better this, the newer that. But we're going to end up in the same spot. We're going to end up reflecting and going, you know what? Better one hand full of tranquility than two filled with sorrow and hard times. So we can do that. We can follow Solomon and try and do it on our own. I think we can shortcut that and learn from him. Or you can follow Jesus and you can say no to the land of Ur, and you can join the upside down, others first, you before me kingdom of God that he lived out and that the church has been living out for the last 2,000 years. And I guarantee you, your life will not be perfect, but you will become more Christ-like. You'll be a better mum, dad, husband, wife, sister, brother, daughter, better co-worker, better son. You will become, as you become more Christ-like, a better person. And you will have peace, tranquility, because you learn to let go and just take with one hand. And what is really cool, and we're finishing now, what is really, really cool is that when you do that, it's not just you who benefits, but there are lots of little yous watching you. And they're going to look at you and see how you handled the resources you were given. And they are going to imitate. And if you can teach them to say no to the land of Ur, to say no to more, to tell them the top of the hill is never the top of the hill. There is always more. There is not peace and tranquility up there. They're going to watch. They're going to learn. And then they will go and do likewise. So as we train up the next generation, as we train up our kids and our grandkids, as we train up our nieces and nephews, as we train up all these young people, are they going to look at a church who are copying Solomon, trying to get to the top of a hill that has no end? Or are they going to see a bunch of people who follow the way of Jesus, who know that there is never enough to fill up other than a life-giving, fulfilling relationship with Jesus Christ? So my challenge to you today is simple. As we finish our time in Serve, where are you going to put the person before you? Where are you going to use your resources? Not so that you can get further ahead. Solomon showed us, it doesn't end. But so that they can be lifted up, loved, cared for, and shown the love of Jesus Christ. Let me pray for you. Father God, thank you that we have these words from Solomon. Thank you that someone went to the top of the hill so we don't have to. I pray right now for anyone who's feeling that there are some changes we can make in our lives, that thought, that feeling won't go away after right now, but it will become more and more nagging and louder in our lives. If there's something we're meant to change so we can lift others up, if there's something we're meant to change to say no to us, to say yes to someone else, make it so that we are able to follow that. Give us the boldness to follow anything you're calling us to be obedient to. Thank you for the words of Solomon. Thank you for Jesus and his sacrificial love. And I pray that this church and all churches within our community are known as churches that are willing to give up their life rather than chase more. In your name and for your glory. Amen.